Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. My first Zelda game, by the way. This game is old. And I mean like really old. But I guess more outdated than old? Sorry. But despite how outdated the graphics are, this is still one of my favorite games of all time. In fact, I have an actual ocarina that's inspired off of the ocarina in this game. I will never forget the first time I ever played this. I'm honestly surprised I was even allowed to play this when I was younger. I mean, my dad wouldn't let me play as him in Smash Bros. Because he had a knife. And I was 6. But I'm getting sidetracked. I loved this game when I was little, and I still do to this day. But I know the reason why you guys clicked onto this video, and it's not to hear me ramble on about this. It was recently revealed that this game was finally going to get a full-on remake with modernized graphics. But from the day I saw the direct, there's one question that's been lingering on the back of my mind, and I'm pretty sure you guys have been wondering about this as well. A certain button, no, buttons, that have completely been forgotten with modern hardware. So let's talk about that. They already know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the C button, seriously though. What are we doing with these? These buttons are way too important to just be forgotten about. First of all, you use your freaking equipment on there. And guess what? No equipment, no beating the game. And no beating the game equals, sad. Second of all, pretty much the entire game is built off of these buttons. I mean, how else do you talk to the annoying fairy? Come on, Nintendo, that's all we want! Then mapping them on this thing would be really awkward. I mean, I don't want to be playing music with my right joystick again, but no matter what other mapping they could do, it would still be awkward. There maybe could be some potential workaround, but I have no idea what that would be. All I can really say is, Nintendo, you better have a good plan. Also, random side note, if they remove the dinosaur, then I'm not playing the game. Third, not having the C buttons would completely ruin some of the side quests. Where my C button man at, dude? You can't have bombs, bottles, ocarina, lens of truth, Deku stick, arrows, slingshot, bows, boomerang, Deku nuts, and you can't have anything. I've not even mentioned that without having the ocarina, you can't do anything in the story. Literally nothing. If you're not gonna have the C button, you might as well not have the game. The C button is the game. Game is the C button. The C button is the whole reason we come to the game. It's all we care about. So don't have the freaking game. Just delete it from history. Ow. But let's be serious for a second. What is Nintendo gonna do about these? I mean, they are a really important part of the game. They must have something, right? I mean, from what we've seen, I'd assume that it's pretty far in development. And without these, there's only so much that you can do before you get stuck. Well, the answer is simple. Just map the C buttons to the right stick like you did on the Switch Online version. But there's actually a major issue with that. You see, it's a game in 2026. There's no way it doesn't have a free look cam. Which means the right stick is already taken up. Which is fine by me, honestly. I never liked the C buttons being on the right stick anyway. So then, what other buttons could you realistically use? You could use the D-pad, it has all of the directions you'd need. But then in order to press it comfortably, you'd have to stop all of your movement, or hold the controller really awkwardly, just to click one of these buttons. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, honestly, that would get really annoying really quick. In fact, if it was this way, I'd probably find myself exiting the game more than entering it, which doesn't actually make sense now I think about it. But you know what I mean. So what else could we do that would be comfortable for the player, but also work the way that the original game did? We could always do it the second Switch Online way, by holding down the ZR button and pressing the A, B, X, and Y buttons, but that doesn't really feel right. It would work, but there's no way Nintendo's gonna do something like that. It's just too inconvenient to hold down a button while you press the primary buttons on the controller to do something that isn't exactly primary. Just forget about the Rampage, please. The C button is the game! So what other solutions could we have? Maybe if they get desperate, then they could make it only playable with the Switch Online N64 controller, but that would be a terrible decision because not everybody has that, and it also doesn't have a lot of the buttons or controls that a modern remake would actually need. So what could they possibly do that would actually work? Not only work, but also feel good. And even if we were to find a solution, what about the ocarina? Playing the ocarina pretty much depends on the C buttons. Without it, there's literally nothing else you can actually do. Like I said earlier, without the ocarina, you can't really do very much in the story. I think now is a good time to think about how many of these C button items that we actually need to beat Ocarina of Time. When you think about it, when you start the game, you don't actually really need the C buttons for very much of anything. Unless you choose to talk to Navi. You can get through the entire introduction to the game without it. You don't need it to get the sword, the money to get the shield, you don't need it to talk to any of the NPCs, and you can make it all the way to the Deku Tree without ever having to touch these buttons. At least from what I can remember. But when you get into the Deku Tree, that's when things start to change a little. The start is pretty doable. You beat some enemies, you climb a ladder, and you make some pretty easy jumps, until you find a room with a Deku shrub inside. However, in the very next room, this is our first time you actually need to use the C button, because once you go far enough in here, you can't get out without using the slingshot, which is obtained in this room. And surprise, surprise, the slingshot is on the C button. And after that is where everything starts to go downhill. The dungeon is designed around using the slingshot, so there is no getting around it. There's probably a glitch that lets you skip this first dungeon, but Nintendo doesn't want you to glitch their games. They're not going to put it on a sign saying, hey, here's how to glitch out of Kokiri Forest. No, they want you to play through the story and they want you to enjoy it. So this is not intentionally going to be designed around using a glitch. And even if you do glitch out of here without using the C buttons, this entire game is designed around using the C buttons for different things, like the Ocarina. And when I think of it that way, I completely run out of ideas. So I think that we should let Nintendo decide how to go about this. It was never our job to worry about this anyway. But I'm not actually going to do that to you guys, because I hate it when I'm left without an answer. Quite literally, as I was editing this video, I realized something. What if we're asking the wrong question? This entire video, I've been looking for ways to emulate the C buttons on a Switch 2 controller, but it seems like that's just not possible. The Switch 2 just doesn't have any buttons that are available and comfortable to use. So what do I mean by asking the wrong question, you might be wondering? Well, instead of asking how can we get the buttons on these controllers, instead we should ask, do we really need these buttons on the controller? This might sound like a pretty dumb question, because obviously yes, we do need the C buttons on the controller if we're going to make a one-to-one remake, but this was never meant to be a one-to-one remake. This game is literally described as being reborn through time. Notice that? Reborn. It didn't say brought back, it said reborn. And while it might sound kind of silly, that pretty much gives us the exact answer that we've been looking for. It was never going to be exactly the same. Times have changed, the people have changed, the players have changed, so why can't the game change? I think the solution is simple. Just get rid of these buttons. There's no need to try to fake buttons that don't exist on the controller. I think we should only need two buttons, the X and Y buttons. During this entire time I've been playing in the background, I've only actually used two of these buttons. I usually just have something lying around on the third one, because I don't know what else to do with it. And if you insist on having all four, there's actually a pretty easy solution. Include the D-pad. But instead of using the D-pad as the literal buttons, instead you could assign stuff you want to quickly swap out for the X and Y buttons. And all you'd have to do is press D-pad right or D-pad left to instantly swap in between the two. What about C up, you might be asking, because you obviously have Navi on there. Well, that could actually be surprisingly easy. In the Wild Era games, you already click the right stick in order to enter what is pretty much first-person mode. So why not do that again here? And if you want maximum authenticity, you could even have Navi on the D-pad up button. Something even better that they could do would even be a quick menu that you could open up and you could manually swap between the weapons and items really quickly, similar to what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom did. Now, you might still be wondering about the Ocarina, but don't worry, because I have thought about that. What if by using the Ocarina, you pretty much enter a different control mode, changing what would be the C buttons to the A, B, X, and Y buttons, and changing what was originally the A button to the R button. You could use the D-pad down to get out of it, you could still change the pitches by pressing different buttons. It would work pretty much the same. Even though I have an idea of what they could do, that doesn't mean that's exactly what they're going to do. For all I know, they could just reuse the right stick and make this video age terribly. And while it is kind of sad to say goodbye to the C buttons forever, this is the future. Things change, people change, the game changes, so the controls are definitely going to change too. And what other choice do we have? There's not enough buttons on the Switch 2. But I think Nintendo actually knows what they're doing with this. This doesn't feel like another quick cash grab. This feels like something genuine they're doing for the love of the game, not just to make money. And even though there will definitely be people who don't end up liking the game, I hope this remake helps this game live on for much longer than it would have without it. And I hope in like 30 years from now I can look back on this video and think, man, this game really is legendary, and will live on forever.